the Chris Lee still being on the air while they in prison is truly nasty business. I can't believe it. They must be sending them royalties to, like, either they banking it in an account somewhere or they putting it on the books. You can imagine Todd Chrisley, all that USA money sitting in a commissary somewhere trading it for cigarettes and cookies. That dude's going to be in prison for quite a while, I think. Why did you decide to put these people on TV? Anyway, let's talk about Raw. February 6, 2023. An actually good episode of Raw from top to bottom with some real soft parts in the middle that made me very, very sleepy. But I'm going to push through because that's what kind of YouTuber I am. I push through, you know. I just go with it, man. I have a routine. I have to finish it. Okay, no news and notes because there's nothing really going on in WWE right now. Outside of the road to WrestleMania and the story stuff. So we start with Edge. Edge and Beth Phoenix are out there. They're ready to fight. We see the story going back to Extreme Rules, which I actually forgot about, to be quite honest. There's been so much stuff in wrestling that I kind of forget that Edge even had an I Quit match with Finn Balor. Maybe I ought to watch that again, I think. But maybe not. Maybe I forgot it for a reason. Anyway, let's piece this thing apart. Edge blamed himself for Judgment Day, saying that he just wanted to elevate what talent that he felt deserved it. And it worked. Everybody in Judgment Day is in a better position than they were last year. He said going into the I Quit match, he knew Finn Balor couldn't do enough damage to him to make him quit. But he felt helpless when he saw Beth in danger. And now he will sink to any level to get his pound of flesh. Beth Phoenix called out Rhea Ripley and Finn Balor wanted a mixed tag match, but Judgment Day interrupted first. Finn Balor, of course, bragged about beating them up, bragged about making Edge quit, bragged about beating the hell out of Beth Phoenix. Then Dominic says that they better get out of the ring or he's going to do something to them that he learned while locked up. Then he says that he wishes Rhea or Mommy was here, but she's out promoting WrestleMania. Damian Priest says that he doesn't understand why Edge and Rey Mysterio keep coming back after they beat him up again and again and again. Damian Priest then forgot what event he was trying to make it into, as he almost called it Money in the Bank, and then looked at Dominic, who probably told him what show that they were talking about. Then he says, I hate this guy. I can't believe he distracted me with all of his edge powers. For some reason, my brain got a bloodbath. And wait a minute. Oh yeah, I know. Elimination Chamber. That's what I want to do. And so he finally figured it out that he was going to be wrestling in Elimination Chamber. Nobody made fun of him for not knowing what event he was at, except everybody on Twitter. Edge then said that he did believe in Judgment Day, and he wants to know why these guys can't figure out what they want. Damian Priest said he didn't want a leader, but now he's following Finn around. He said that Finn Balor has become a dollar store Jamiroquai, and then told the kids to Google it. Who the hell is Jamiroquai? Look, let's pause right here. Jamiroquai? Really? Edge. I don't get it. I remember the Virtual Insanity video on MTV, like, all day. Like, look, I even heard of Jamiroquai's albums. I just don't know what this has to do with Finn Balor. What does acid jazz have to do with Finn Balor? How are these two things? What's the connection? I don't get the connection. Anyway, he said that he can't wait till Dominic gets the 619 in his face. He also made a prison rape joke about Dominic, which was pretty funny. Beth thinks that Rhea Ripley is scared and that she didn't come out because she got speared at the Royal Rumble. Somebody should have told Beth that Rhea Ripley was actually there on Monday. So anyway, Judgment Day surrounded them and was threatening to beat them up when the Street Profits came out there to help. This left Dawkins to go out there. He actually just came out there to help. Dominic tried to flee when Montez Ford, I guess, waddled, you could say, tiptoed very comedically behind Dominic. grabbed him and threw him in the ring. To which he took a glam slam from Beth Phoenix. It was great. It made me smile because Dominic Mysterio is still very good at his job. I said in the comment section to a Jim Cornette video that everything that makes Dominic a terrible babyface actually works as a heel. His underdeveloped body, his lack of, I don't want to say talent, but his lack of mic skills, like it all just works with him being a heel. Because now he's just absolutely delusional, you know? The delusional heel who thinks that he's so much better than he is, but he's really just incompetent at pretty much everything except selling, which is a really good thing to be good at. Dominic has really good facial expressions, and he's really good at selling. So when he gets grabbed by Beth Phoenix, he just immediately just goes facial expressions, you know, shaking of the head, being very animated. Then he took the move, and it was all very cool, and it made me smile. So Dominic wins. He doesn't win a match. He got beat up by an old lady, but it doesn't matter. You know, he's continuing to impress. I like Judgment Day. You know, Judgment Day has been pretty cool. Damian Priest's brain fart was pretty funny. Okay, so Elimination Chamber qualifier, after Adam Pearce came out and cleared up the ring, Damian Priest defeats Angelo Dawkins with the South of Heaven chokeslam. It was a fine match. Dawkins was pretty impressive. As a solo performer, he is impressing weekly. I mean, he's doing a pretty decent job out there as a solo performer. He better get better soon, though, because Montez Ford would win his qualifying match later on against Elias. This is when I was terribly sleepy. I don't know how I got through it. As a matter of fact, I don't think I watched enough of this match to know move happened. I just saw a frog splash. I saw Montez Ford jumping all over the place. Elias means nothing on TV. Montez Ford is just a guy everybody's waiting to break out, but there's nowhere for him to go. Like, if Montez Ford was to quit the Street Profits and try to blow up as a single star, where would he land? You know? There's more of a need for tag teams and, you know, impressive tag team stars than there is for any type of solo position right now. The United States title is trying to be used to elevate Austin Theory. Most people who are in that sphere is just there to put over Austin Theory. He can't be the Intercontinental Champion. He's certainly not going to be wrestling for the world title. So what is there for him to do as a solo act? So it's better for Montez Ford to be in a tag team, but everybody's sort of just waiting for that thing to burst and for him to really be born as a single star. But he's very good. Austin Theory was on commentary, didn't really add too much to the match. He got attacked by Seth Rollins afterwards and then stomped on the floor, which was the only thing we saw of Seth Rollins this whole night. And outside of showing up in a Lamborghini, it was the only thing we saw from Austin Theory all night. So, that push for Austin Theory, how about that? You know, he get his face stomped onto the floor. How about that? Anyway. All right, so the men's Elimination Chamber match is set. It is going to be Seth Rollins, Damian Priest, Montez Ford, Bronson Reed, Johnny Gargano, and Austin Theory. Okay. Solid enough, I guess. Since it's for the U.S. title, it's not that big of a deal. It's fine. Well, it's not. I was about to say it's the pay-per-view main event, but no, it's probably going to be the pay-per-view opener. If we being for real, it's probably going to be the opener of the show. But, you know, it's solid enough. I think they should have made a bigger deal out of these qualifying matches and maybe had guys talk about, you know, the Elimination Chamber. Damian Priest was wrapped up in storylines that involve other people. And Dawkins didn't really get to talk about being a solo act at all. You know, any solo aspirations at all or anything. And that doesn't really help when you're trying to get over guys. It doesn't help that you are not utilizing them, you know, to put over the storylines that they're involved in or the matches that they're involved in. You know, it's one thing to have a match with some stakes in it, but it would also like to know what those stakes mean to the performers. I mean, it's not, again, you can't just have matches for the sake of matches. You know, even if you say, oh, the winner's going to get something. Sure. But how about what is this thing that is going to be won? What does it mean for the wrestler? And I think that Finn Balor and Dominic could have handled the edge part perfectly without Damian Priest being out there. at least without him saying anything. And maybe his promo being about, bringing the United States title back to Judgment Day, and or whatever. He hasn't been United States champion in a year or whatever the hell, and that's been his motivation for being out there. And or Edge is in his ring, and Edge needs to get out of here. He's got a United States title to win. He's done with Edge. We're done with you. Get out of here. We beat you up 100 times already. Something like that. Instead of just kind of being kind of a hype man and then forgetting your lines. I mean, come on. Moving on. Maximum Male Models. They're officially signed to Monday Night Raw, which makes no sense because they're going to do a draft in a couple of weeks. So why would you bring Maximum Male Models over to Raw, and to do what? They didn't do anything else on this show. So Chelsea Green walked up to Adam Pearce, asked him if he was the manager. Of course he is. She starts complaining about more amenities like Swiss chocolates and all this kind of stuff. Then she's upset that she's not in the Elimination Chamber match and said that she can beat anybody who is in it. Then she threatens to call Adam Pearce's boss if he doesn't give her a match. I actually like this. This is great. Chelsea Green is really good in being this bitchy diva. This is really good. Again, if Meltzer and all these guys had not poisoned the well by making you think she was going to be like one of those mask police people from like you see on Twitter who's like a raving lunatic screaming about little to nothing, this gimmick basically could have been done 5 or 10 years ago. It's just a diva. She's basically like Mariah Carey or something like that. Like I said before. She also approached Adam Pearce later in the show to accost him, saying that, "Oh, I'm going to the ring. You better have me an opponent or I'm going to call your manager." And he kind of was like, ugh. So, of course, she comes out. She's wearing this silly hat, the same kind of hat that Alicia Fox usually wears. I think it's a boat captain's hat. It's really over the top. What's always been hilarious to me is how many people find Chelsea Green to be like the most beautiful woman on earth. Like, there's just so many, like, look, she's hot, sure, but she's not like, she's not the most awesome looking chick, but 90% of the people are kind of like, oh my God, Chelsea Green, she's so hot. I'm kind of like, she's alright, she's pretty good. Like, she reminds me a lot of like the girls from the Iconics, where they're pretty, but they're not, next level pretty. I don't know. I'm not hating on nothing like that, I don't dislike Chelsea Green. Actually, I kind of do just like Chelsea Green. I'm just trying to give her a fair break here. Her opponent is Asuka, so she got dunked on in this segment, and this sets you up to tell you what kind of character she is. She's probably going to be like the female version of The Miz. She's going to talk about how great she is, how big of a star she is, all these things that she deserves, only for management to then dunk on her, Wile E. Coyote style. She's going to get what she wants, and it's going to blow up in her face like a monkey's paw, like a Twisted Metal ending. So she goes to have this match with Asuka. It was actually longer than it probably should have been. Chelsea Green actually attacks Asuka from behind because Asuka is distracted by all of her opponents from the women's elimination chamber. They're surrounding the ring, and that gives Chelsea Green an opportunity to get some offense in. So after, a pretty big face buster or whatever, Chelsea Green starts yelling at the women outside the ring that she could beat them and that she's better than them and she should be in the match and not them. And she starts having this thing with Nikki where, she yells at Nikki giggles. Then she yells at Nikki again and Nikki giggles. And when she turned around, she got, beat up by Asuka, put in a submission hold, and she quits. So Chelsea Green lost her first match and was not really all that competitive in the match. But it was a strong showing for Asuka, which really matters. I don't know if I like this. I think we should probably give her some legitimacy first. Maybe she should just be like a jobber, and then she should complain about the quality of her competition. Like, this feels like that would fit her character a little bit more, wouldn't it? Like, she's talking about the quality of the chocolates or the quality of her locker room, that kind of thing, as something that she could complain about. Like, if you just threw somebody out there, anybody, local job girl, NXT talent, NIL talent, or whatever, Chelsea Green gets an easy win, And then she goes back, and maybe next week she says, hey, you gave me an opponent last week, but that opponent sucked. It wasn't a challenge. Is that the quality of the opponents here on WWE? Yada, yada, yada. And then he steadily increases the opponents until she, gets into a ring with somebody like Asuka, and then she gets killed. Jumping to the part where she gets killed kind of is like, all right, now we can just write her off as a comedy character, which is, there's enough of those floating around here. I would have felt like you maybe would have gave her some legitimacy. There's a dearth of female talents in WWE right now. And, they got a lot of just bodies, just females that just exist. We're going to talk about that in a moment. But it's just, why not try to make somebody seem like they stand out in this division? Especially somebody that Bianca Belair hasn't beaten yet. During this title run. She probably beat her on SmackDown or something like that. But somebody she hasn't beaten during this title run yet. Why not at least pretend that this girl is going to be some kind of a threat in the division instead of just beating her right out of the gate? I don't know, but Triple H is the biggest, best booker of all time. Big Balls H. I don't know, Papa H. What the hell are they calling him? I don't know. I don't care. Bianca Belair comes out there. She hasn't been seen in a while, and that's really all this is. And basically, she just says, "Oh yeah, I was in you guys' position last year. Let's see who got the guts to be one-on-one with the EST," and she wishes everybody good luck. But that's really the only thing she came out there for. She wasn't out there for any particular reason. And yeah, poor Bianca. Ever since Triple H took over, it's been this. All right, speaking of comedy characters, Baron Corbin loses a match to Dexter Lumis. This is something that I never needed to see. Ever. Even though this story was built the previous week where Dexter Lumis was pulling an axe on JBL, I had no interest in this match. I have no interest in Baron Corbin or Dexter Lumis. So I barely made it through this. So Lumis wins at a move that doesn't even look like a finisher. The entire time JBL was outside the ring, completely disappointed and quite frankly disgusted at Baron Corbin. And then we get the big reveal. Baron Corbin is backstage. He's unwrapping his wrist and he's talking about going to get dinners and going to do blah, 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 blah. And JBL was like, what do you mean we? And Corbin was like, yeah, you and me. He was like, there's no we, there's no us. Then he says how when he was WWE champion, he was must-see TV. He was the wrestling god, all this kind of stuff. But Baron Corbin is channel-changing TV. He talks about how his WWE championship run, his Hall of Fame career, his credibility has been besmirched because of Corbin. And that wrestling god, Baron Corbin is a clown. Then Corbin very pathetically was like, what? I can do better. I can work harder. I can do better than that. And then JBL says, you can't polish a turd. I tried. And I just was like, oof. Ooh. That was a burial from the 3-point line. That's like when you get dunked on in like one of those basketball games and somebody's like thigh or they balls like jam up against your cheek or something like that. Like, wow. What did he do to deserve this? Where is this going? Unless they're going to have a match against each other, where's this going? Maybe it's going to be yet another change in Baron Corbin's character. Like people say like this Bradshaw thing ain't working. This poker thing is not working. Look, it wasn't working. It sucked. But that's just Baron Corbin in general. Like, his match style doesn't really work. He's a serviceable mid-heel, but the constant churn of the character where we don't know where he's going, he becomes something new, then he's that for a while, he plateaus very quickly, he churns over, he becomes something new, but he just never leaves that same position. And to be quite honest, since he went did the JBL thing, he actually kind of diminished in position. And until they decide whether they're going one way or the other with him, it seems to me like he's just going to be stuck there in that mid spot. I'm talking he's dead neutral in the middle. Like, he gets heat sometimes, but it's mostly, I wouldn't say go away heat, but it's mostly like, generic boo. Not anything special, it's just boo. Zombie boos. Maybe we need to put him in a tag team division or something like that. I think that's the only thing he hasn't done successfully is be a tag team wrestler. And there's got to be somebody, maybe a Von Wagner or something for him to tag team with. And they could do that for a little while. But that's the only way you could save this guy. As a singles act, I think he's dead. But I am concerned thinking about where is this going to go? Like, really, where is this going? I don't know. I'm waiting to see, though. Because something tells me that this was the plan all along. It's only going to be a couple of weeks with him and JBL. That they're not like abandoning ship on this, but maybe it was just a plan for them to go for a little while. And then Baron Corbin to shift it to something else. All right. So Becky Lynch is going to cut a promo backstage. She starts telling the story about getting off the plane for the first time, beginning her journey. She met Bayley at the Performance Center just down the road, and that Bayley wanted to be great. But her way of being great was smiling and hugging everyone, and then clutching onto others and trying to ride their coattails. And Becky Lynch also wanted to be great, but she did it by punching people in the face and breaking barriers. It said now Bayley has taken to attacking her, injuring her, and now she's brought her family into it. And even said, I'm going to learn you not to do that. Irish. They don't. Damn Irish. Boy, oh boy. Goddamn Irish. Anyway, this leads to the main event. Becky Lynch defeats Bayley. And this was actually pretty damn good. You can't really go wrong with these two girls. Corey Graves is in his Gorilla Monsoon era when it comes to criticizing Bayley about her misuse of a knee bar. Which is... Look, the average person probably wouldn't have noticed that Bayley misapplied the knee bar. But Corey Graves, talking about it on commentary, just brought extra attention to it. Like, the camera wasn't even on it, so it didn't matter anyway. But that was pretty funny. Becky Lynch used a disarmer at the top of the cage, which was weird because there was a weird camera angle on it, so you really couldn't see it that well. Of course, I'm about to call them Toxic Attraction, Jesus. Damage Control, they get interfered. EO climbed the cage and fought Becky. Dakota Kai slid one of her crutches in between the cage so that Bayley could get it. Bayley starts to use that as a weapon. And then all of a sudden, Lita's music hits. Lita runs to the ring, pulls EO off the cage. It gives her a twist of fate on the floor. She snatches the other crutch from Dakota Kai. Bayley is having a fit. Then Lita slams the cage door very gently onto Bayley, who stumbles into a manhandle slam and is pinned. And we go off the air with Lita and Becky Lynch hugging. I like this. I did. I like this. Lita was pretty random as a person to save Becky Lynch. Like, it was pretty random, but Becky Lynch having backup prepared for Damage Control makes sense. Now we need one more person and they can have a 6-woman tag or something like that. But Becky Lynch and Lita had, of course, a random match in Saudi Arabia last year, so they kind of have a respect thing between the two of them. I'm cool with that. I would have liked for it to be somebody else, it's good that it was Lita, but you should be trying to get over some of these other girls too. There's got to be like some young girls we got to be trying to get over, right? So if they're going to be a third party to this thing, it's got to be like a younger girl. Like, I like the idea of, wanting to utilize the women's legends a little bit more, but like Lita and Beth Phoenix and all that kind of stuff, but they're, I wouldn't say they're routinely in part of the story, but they're pretty regular in the story. While you got other women wrestlers who basically can't get any TV time at all, they're not doing much of anything. Like, they had Aaliyah bitching on Twitter. I'm not saying like Aaliyah probably would have been a better choice to put in this position. That makes no sense. I didn't say that. What I'm saying is find a position for them too, or cut them. We had this WWE, man. If we ain't got no place for you, best of luck in your future endeavors. But it would have been nice if we would have considered that we got to put over some young girls. We got to get some young girls in a stronger position. You know, Lita is a nice little garnish to the women's division, but her making the big save, you know, that's fine. But, you know, it's a good moment for Becky. But at what point are we going to start, you know, going younger? At what point do we do that? You know, we already got Beth Phoenix wrestling Rhea Ripley. So now we're going to have Lita and Bayley. That sounds like fun for Bayley, especially if it's going to be at WrestleMania or something like that. That could be great. But at what point do we get younger? And, you know, we start, not saying put the old folks out the pasture. That's not what I mean. But at least having better positions and storylines for the younger girls. I don't know. I'm trying to be fair here. I'm trying. All right. So that was the main event. That was fun. The Brock Lesnar did an amazing promo on this show. He said that he thought the Royal Rumble sucked. And then said, well, at least he had a sucky experience because he got eliminated by Bobby Lashley. Then said Lashley finally struck a chord with him. Now all he could think of is Bobby Lashley. When he's hunting, when he's fishing, when he's having a steak dinner, he's thinking of Bobby Lashley. Then he says, when he climbs in bed with his wife, and then he paused and was like, I can't say when I'm thinking about Bobby Lashley when I'm in bed with my wife. So he catches himself and was like, 4 or 5 hours later, all I could think about is Bobby Lashley. So that was fun. Brock is having fun. He's still doing the Southern accent. I don't know why he's talking like he's from Tennessee, but it's great. Like he moved to Canada and all of a sudden turned into a Kentuckian. I don't know how that happened. Like he moved to Canada and all of a sudden it's he got a straw in his mouth and you know he's riding around in wheat fields in Kentucky. Like what the hell? So anyway, because he's now obsessed with Bobby Lashley, he has a multi-million-dollar contract for a match between the two of them at Elimination Chamber. So Lashley comes out there, and they're trying to get Lashley over, I guess it's the babyface in this thing. Because he's doing a whole arm-pumping thing to his theme music with the crowd. He's slapping hands and everything. Lashley comes out looking like he's about to play the organ at church. So this is all good. So Lashley gets on the microphone, says that, you know, let's walk down memory lane real quick. That he beat Brock Lesnar in their first match. Lesnar got one over him on the second, but the third time they got into each other's faces, it was at the Royal Rumble, and he threw him over the top rope. So he feels like he is in control of this situation. And if they're going to have a third match, it's going to be on Bobby's terms, not Brock's. So he's going to take this contract. He's going to have his agent look at it. He's going to have his manager look at it. He's going to have his attorneys look at it. And Brock is standing there like, okay. And he'll get back to him with a response. And then he says, oh, does that bother you? Does it bother you that, you know, I'll finally have one up on you? And then he immediately catches an F5. The crowd then demands that Brock do it again. So, of course, Brock does it again. Now they're going to do a contract signing next week. Having Lesnar versus Lashley at Elimination Chamber is interesting. They're stacking the hell out of Elimination Chamber. My God. So if they're going to have Bobby Brock 3 at Elimination Chamber, what in the world are they going to do at WrestleMania? That's what I like. What is Bobby's path at WrestleMania? What is Brock's path at WrestleMania? Or is it going to be Bobby Brock 4 at WrestleMania, some kind of special stipulation match? I think running the same match about a month apart, kind of weird, you know, to just do it again. Unless this is going to be the end and you're going to separate these two guys in some way. I don't know why you would do that. Elimination Chamber doesn't really need this match, if we're being honest. Does it really need this match? I don't think so. I think you should push this for Mania, especially if it's going to be night 1 of Mania. I think, you know, especially if Roman's going to be wrestling on night 2, I think you give Bobby and Brock a top spot in night 1. And so putting it on Chamber. I just want to know what the plans for Brock is at WrestleMania, and what the plans for Bobby is. If it's less than this, then maybe we should save this for WrestleMania and do whatever it is they was planning to do that SummerSlam or something like that. I know there's been some talk of Gunther versus Lesnar. I don't see why you rush into that. I think you wait until Gunther is world champion and then you do that. Wait until Gunther is world champion. Brock could be, he'd probably be about 50, because he's 47 or something like that now, 45, 46. If you give Cody a nice little run with the championship, let's say 100, 200 days or whatever, and then maybe he drops it to Gunther, then, Lesnar is an opponent from him. That's fine. But for the Intercontinental Championship, I don't know. I wouldn't dislike it, but I would say, I don't know if Gunther's a character is in a position where that works for him right now. I think he needs to be showcased as strong as possible, and being put in there with Brock, where he's going to take 100 suplexes, get thrown all over the place, and then probably beat. Probably not the best move. At least not right now anyway, right? But I can be persuaded into just accepting these two having a match. But I think it's just internet chatter, because they are still doing something between Gunther and Sheamus, and I think they're probably going to go back to that. And I've heard, there might be a triple threat match between Gunther, Sheamus, and Drew McIntyre. Not good for Drew McIntyre, but I guess it could be worse. He could be stuck in the tag team. All right, moving on. Johnny Gargano, after Dexter Lumis won, was checking in on Candice LeRae as she prepares for her important match for the Women's Elimination Chamber spot. And Dexter Lumis drew a family picture, which for some reason included Nikki Cross in it. Candice LeRae noticed that, says, "Is that Nikki?" And then Nikki starts to giggle behind her. She turns around. Nikki? Nikki giggles and runs off. And I was like, I don't know what's going on here. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. She has been following Candice LeRae around since, I think, early to mid-December. This is the first step towards anything we've seen. I still don't know why we're doing this. I don't get it. And I'm not sure if it was meant for me to get it. And anyway, the Elimination Chamber qualifier match. Carmella defeats Piper Niven, Mia Yim, and Candice LeRae, with Candice LeRae the one taking the pin. Carmella going over in this match, to me, a slap in the face. It is a slap in the face. Now, they told the story how they usually tell a story with somebody like Carmella, where she basically picked the bones. Candice LeRae was working together with Mia Yim, and they was doing so they could defeat Piper Niven, or at least keep her at bay. They, of course, have a falling out as only one person can win. Candice gets crushed in the corner by Carmella. Then she gets crushed again by Piper Niven. Carmella kicks Piper Niven out of the way and pins Candice LeRae in order to get the spot. So, Carmella winning, for starters, winning her return match. That's, generally speaking, a good idea. But putting Carmella in an Elimination Chamber match over Candice LeRae, Mia Yim, and Piper Niven, classic WWE booking. Look, I've shit on Candice LeRae a lot, but a Elimination Chamber match would probably be right up her alley. Same thing with Piper Niven, would bring a different energy to an Elimination Chamber match. I get that, much like Bronson Reed, why would you put Piper Niven in it if she's not going to win it? So her not winning is fine, but putting Carmella in it is dumb. All right, it's just dumb. So the Women's Elimination Chamber match is Carmella, Nikki Cross, Raquel Rodriguez, Asuka, Liv Morgan, and Natalya. I mean, in the year of our Lord 2023, Carmella and Natalya are still in top spots in this company. Let's double back to what I said a minute ago. When are we going to get younger? When are we going to take that old horse Natalya to the back? Put a couple of rubber bullets in the back of her head and say, please retire. Carmella's been around since 2015 or something like that. She's not really a tippy top star. She's the Baron Corbin of the women's division. She's a serviceable heel. She probably would fit very well in the tag team division. If you team her up with like Chelsea Green or something like that, that would work. I think that's the perfect usage of both of them, to be quite honest. Chelsea Green and Carmella as a tag team. I think those two characters would get along perfectly. Why are we pushing Carmella as a singles act? Ridiculous. And they got me sitting here caping for Mrs. Gargano, which is already got me in a bad mood. I don't like Candice LeRae. But for Christ's sake, if you're going to have an Elimination Chamber match, Nikki Cross being in it is a crime. Natalya being in it is a goddamn war crime. And Carmella being in it is, just take him to the fucking Hague. Like somebody's got to do something. Call the World Court. There is no World Court. Make one. Call it forth and put Triple H on trial for the way he booked this Elimination Chamber match. Fuck. The only two people in it that anybody will care about, well, three, is Liv, Raquel, and Asuka. For Christ's sake, we know that the other three have no chance of winning. Just none. At all. Period. But fuck, we still stuck with it. Jesus Christ. This is not good. It ain't good. All right, what else ain't good? Alpha Academy was defeated by Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander. MVP is with Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander. No explanation why. Just kind of an apparent of the band's getting back together. No on-screen conversations between these guys to hash everything out, or, which probably would have been a little bit better. I don't know. Oh, I forgot. I skipped something. Piper Niven, when she lost, she ran up on Candice LeRae backstage because she was the one that got pinned. And she blamed Candice for her not getting a chance to become the Raw Women's Champion. Mia Yim then took up for her by kind of squeezing in between the two of them. Piper Niven, noticing that she was outnumbered, said that if either one of them get between her and the title again, bad things will occur. And then she walked away. She said it in her Scottish accent. Scottish and Irish. It's some version of English that most people don't understand, don't know anything about, for Christ's sake. But they did what they could. Anyway, going back to Shelton Benjamin and Alpha Academy. Yeah, I said what I had to say on that. Let's just move on. I'm sleepy. I gotta go to work in the morning. All right, The Miz. The Miz is complaining that he lost to Rick Boogs because he wasn't prepared. He's going to send a bill to Adam Pearce for the damage to his $10,000 suit. And he starts going off on Rick Boogs, who comes out of Adam Pearce's office. He starts talking about how, he's unimpressed by Boogs and all this kind of stuff. Of course, he starts running down Adam Pearce, and Adam Pearce is listening. Then Adam Pearce says, oh, you just needed some time to prepare. Okay, how about you wrestle Rick Boogs next week? Boogs is very excited. He still starts saying he's booging out, which he starts doing like something like a shake weight or something with his arms. I don't know. But again, another comedy character on this show. At least this guy's getting pushed. Rick Boogs has 100% 1980s WWF superstar to him. I like it. The maniacal nature of the character, the chaotic mustache, the tassels, and just the huge size to him. I could see him being 1986, a buddy of Hulk Hogan's, slapping his chest, a Hulkamaniac, just like everybody else, yelling at the camera. That would be great to be able to transport that energy into modern wrestling. That would take something special. Speaking of something special, the highlight of the show. Now, it's amazing to me that on a show where Lita returned, Brock Lesnar is there, the regular roster characters still managed to steal the show. Cody Rhodes comes out there, and his first order of business is to handle people who are thinking we can hijack the show and get people to cheer for Sami Zayn. So he manages to, instead of, combating that, he decides to play into it. He starts talking about Sami Zayn kicking up a lot of dust, being a disruptor. having a lot of momentum in his hometown, and he may very well be challenging Sami Zayn at WrestleMania. Then he said he respects Sami Zayn. I have all respect in the world for him. And when it comes to Elimination Chamber, may the best man win. He came across as being very magnanimous. He came across as being just as focused on Sami Zayn if he were to win that he would have been on Roman. He's not overlooking Sami Zayn. So he kind of gave Sami Zayn his flowers a little bit. And then he kind of moved on. Before he gets the chance to do anything else, what you get is Paul Heyman comes to the ring. Paul Heyman basically says that, of course, the tribal chief has been a little bit busy. Things have slipped through the cracks, but he wants to congratulate Cody. And on behalf of Roman Reigns, he wants to congratulate Cody. So, of course, that's disingenuous, but things get real quickly. Because Cody says, his brother had a certain nickname for Paul, and his dad had a certain nickname for Paul. But he has respect for Paul, so he's going to call Paul Mr. Heyman. And he has respect for Paul because in his story time with Cody, his story time with Cody Rhodes, he would talk about my old man, the American dream, the apple of my eye, my hero, God. He's like the best wrestler of all time, the American dream, Dusty Rhodes. Anyway, Cody starts telling the story about how hard times really came to the Rhodes family. It was $100 in a Wachovia account for everybody in the year 2000. And Dusty was doing car commercials just to keep the car. And he was hurt as he was saying this. And Heyman starts to get all teary-eyed. And he says that Heyman gave Dusty a call, asked him to come down to ECW and do some stuff with Steve Corino. Steve Corino fucking sucks, by the way. He fucking sucks. He sucks hard. God, Steve Corino, boy, him and Justin Credible, wow. They basically 9/11 to ECW. Them two and Rhino. They basically took the reins of ECW and drove it right into a fucking building. They burned everything around them. Those three guys fucking ruined ECW. Man, god damn, they sucked. They were boring as hell, and Paul was putting them over huge. I mean, they had Rhino power drive the Sandman 100 times, power drive the Sandman's wife through a table. They had him do all this stuff, and Sandman couldn't touch him, couldn't beat him, couldn't do shit, and they didn't draw a fucking dime. Justin Credible was there, hitting people with kendo sticks every fucking week. Nothing was working. It all sucked. Steve Corino, the king of old school. Oh my God, he was so boring. Oh, he sucked so bad. Anyway, I'm sorry for that little reprieve. Let's get back on track. So Paul Heyman gave Dusty an opportunity when nobody else would. He gave him a job, but most importantly, Heyman gave Dusty his confidence back. And at this point, Heyman is about to cry. He's literally teary-eyed. And so is Cody. And then he says, we don't talk about this a lot here, but, when you were doing ECW, you were a disruptor, and when I left, I was a disruptor. So from one disruptor to another, I thank you again, Paul Heyman. Just gave Paul all his flowers. You feel me? So Paul is there, and he's teary-eyed, and he's caught off guard, and Cody is kind of teary-eyed too, and the crowd is clapping and chanting, "Thank you, Paul." They're really into this. It's very emotional. So Heyman has to now correct this. He has to fix this issue here. So he says, it's not about your dad. It's not about me. It's about you. It's about your story. And then he says that nobody prepared Cody for this opportunity for main eventing WrestleMania. Then he says that the Performance Center is right down the road where Dusty Rhodes worked and prepared stars for the future. Dusty Rhodes prepped and prepared Becky Lynch and Bayley and Seth Rollins and so many others, including Roman Reigns. And the boos come in. And then Paul said that, your father prepped and prepared so many stars, but he never prepped or prepared you. And Cody, he does a little head jerk thing where he's kind of offended, but he kind of takes it on the chin, like, okay, that's fine. And then Paul he's a manipulator, so he's trying to put some soothing balm on it. Say, maybe Dusty wanted you to make it on your own. Maybe he didn't want you to be under the shadow of the American dream. Maybe he wanted you to do it on your own. That's why he didn't prepare you for this opportunity. And then he says that he wants to share what Dusty said to him in his final conversation with Dusty. And I knew things were about to get ugly here. But he says that he talked to Dusty. Last time he talked to Dusty, he said that Cody was his favorite son. And at this point, Cody got the red ring around his eyes because it's over. He's about to weep. And then he says, but Roman Reigns is the son he always wanted. And everybody's offended. Everybody's offended by this. Everybody's upset by this. Cody's pissed. But the one positive thing about Cody's character is that he maintains his composure, which is interesting for a babyface. He maintains his composure. He corners Paul Heyman, who of course starts to mule a little bit, like, oh no. And Cody puts his hand out, and Paul shakes it, and Cody says, I'm just trying to win a wrestling championship, but everybody wants to make it personal. Then he says that Paul is not going to pay for making it personal. Roman Reigns will, when he takes those championships from Roman personally. And that's the end of it. Was an epic promo. It was like they say, a promo is a match and a match is a promo. This was a verbal match. Okay. They started with the babyface shine, where, Cody is shining up Paul, making Paul seem like he's a really good guy, putting Paul over. This is what kind of generous guy Paul is. This is what kind of great guy Paul is. Paul shines up Cody a little bit, shines up Dusty. He's not working dirty yet. And then he starts getting a little bit dirtier a little bit later. Dusty worked with everybody except you. That's a poke in the eye. The low blow comes later, where he says, like, Roman Reigns is the son that Dusty always wanted. That's that Ric Flair uppercut right to the nuts. But Cody, he sold it, but he didn't let it stop him. He pushed through it. He maintained his composure. He maintained his professionalism. He didn't crack under pressure. He, even though what he said at the end wasn't entirely true, like he said, like, other people are making it personal. It's like, no, this story is personal from the beginning. That's the thing. Kind of baby faces are not paying attention to their own stories. Cody started this whole thing last year by basically telling this long story about how Dusty was screwed out of the WWF Championship, and he always wanted to bring that title back to Dusty. That's always what he wanted to do. He made it personal. This is a personal mission for Cody. All right. So Paul Heyman isn't making it personal. It was already personal. It can't be anything but personal because of what Cody wants to do, So, but it was excellent. It was very well done, and it was masterful promo work. And there was not an excessive amount of cursing. There was some acting to it, but then again, of course, there's going to be some acting to it. It was a very strong promo, and to have, just like the Roman Reigns bloodline story, I guess you could say, having such strong storylines, not just on SmackDown, but also on Raw too. That can build a hell of a WrestleMania. Okay. They're already starting the story with Cody because that's the direction they were going in. You can't go in any other direction except Cody and Roman now. You can't triple threat this thing now. Now that, Dusty's in the middle of this and Paul is, has lit the fire. It's not just a professional, I want to win the championships match anymore. It is now, Roman is probably about to start talking about Dusty when this is over. When he's done with Sami Zayn, he's probably going to start cutting promos on Dusty. Probably cutting promos, calling him Stardust, all that kind of stuff. All that stuff's coming. All of it's coming. And I think this was sort of the prelude for that. And this is going to be very interesting. But they killed it right here. This segment, it was a little too long, but this segment right here, it made me forget I was watching a wrestling show. And it's been a couple of times during the Bloodline story where you kind of forget that. You kind of forget you're watching a wrestling angle. But these two guys, I mean, most of the time you get snapped back into it as soon as somebody get beat up because you're like, oh shit, it's, it's wrestling. It's a wrestling ring and everything. But these two guys are wearing suits. They're just talking to each other. They have a microphone and everything. But it could have been a conversation two people could have had in an apartment. They could have had this conversation pretty much anywhere. It would have been the exact same reactions, but you wouldn't have gotten, of course, the crowd, being as involved in everything. So this was epic. This was very good. Kudos to both guys. It was a masterclass on wrestling promos. Even WWE haters really, really enjoyed this promo. And this is Cody at his best. Cody in WWE is Cody at his best. He's doing very good here. He gets to be a soap opera guy. And it's in front of an audience that would support that and is okay with that and doesn't mind it. And in fact, encourages it, as opposed to the AEW audience, which is all about, taking personal shots, all the pseudo shoot promos, all that kind of stuff. Like, there was truth in this, but it wasn't, Paul saying, I helped your father when he was broke. It wasn't nothing like that. It was straight up, Cody took, Paul by surprise by acknowledging that Paul did that nice thing for Dusty. It wasn't used as a weapon against Cody. It was used by Cody to make Cody seem like a good guy, that he doesn't forget, people who do nice things for him. It made him seem like a legitimately good person, So, and it made Paul Heyman look like a human being, a guy who respects legends, but a guy who also was looking to do something different in the business. So it really did a really good job. Kudos to both of these guys, man. This was a stronger promo. This was the strongest, single promo probably in a long time. Like, yeah, the Sami Zayn, Roman stuff has been excellent. But as a promo segment, this is, I would put it, it would be close to the Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Roman, Jey Uso segment from the Royal Rumble. It would be pretty close. Now, that was, of course, the capstone to something that had been building up for months and months and months. This is the beginning of something. So, clearly, I wouldn't say this was of a higher caliber. But I think in terms of storytelling, it is just as important. And it's been really good. It was a perfect time to break this out, too. Because people who thought that, Cody was going to get booed or that Cody was going to get replaced, there's no chance of that. There's no chance of that now. We're in this joint deep now. All right, so this was a very solid episode of Monday Night Raw featuring some stars. There were still some lulls in the action that I didn't really care for. The Baron Corbin, the By God, Alpha Academy crap. But you got the Edge segment that was very good. You got the Brock segment that was very good. The Cody and Paul Heyman segment that was awesome. The really good cage match main event. Surprise with Lita. I mean, there's just so much that you got that was a positive on this show. That this show really got over with me. I may actually watch some parts of this episode again. But what do you guys think? like, share, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later, man. Peace out.